Hi, Morgan.
Hello, Sam.
I think we have participants still joining, so maybe we'll give them a minute or two and then we can get started.
Sure.
Okay, I think it's 3 minutes past, so maybe we can get started. Is that okay, Priyanka?
Yes, sir. I think we'll start.
Okay. Uh, I think first of all, I would like to welcome everyone who's on today's session. Thank you for taking time off on a Friday to spend time with us. I have with me my colleague Murugan. So I think between the both of us, we were hoping to give you some insight into SOAR and what it means from a SOC perspective, given the ever evolving context of today's security world. So let me share my screen also very quickly. Is my screen visible now, Murugan?
Yes, Sam. I can see your screen.
Okay. Oops. Share again.
Yeah, you can see it now.
Great. So I think everyone who's registered for the webinar might already have seen the agenda, of course, but just to reiterate, we'll be spending some time today talking about why we are having the session today, what are some of the challenges that today's SOC faces. Then before we move into how SOAR can help, we are going to talk a little bit about automation versus SOAR. So automation's been around for a while now. So what does SOAR mean as opposed to just plain old automation? Then we spend a little bit of time talking about building out a next generation SOC and how SOAR plays into that story, into that narrative. And finally, I think Murugan will take over to explain a little bit in detail about a SOAR use case, from where we'll jump directly into the live demo where we showcase some of the concepts we are talking about. During the session, of course, please feel free to stop us, interrupt us, ask any questions. If you have any questions, you can type it in the chat box also, and we'd be happy to answer those. So with that, let me get started without further ado. If you look at the key challenge in terms of today's SOC, if you look at the diagram here and the timeline, in the last 20 years, the growth in the number of security alerts that are generated has been exponential. There are more examples of data breaches, system breaches that are happening, more and more versions of malware that get generated, new tactics and techniques that malicious actors are using to try and get access to systems. There's a increasing complexity in the infra we are protecting also, from data centers in-house to public cloud, private cloud, BYOD. The attack surface has been consistently increasing over time. And if you look at where we are now, you have hundreds of millions of malicious programs that are registered. And as a result of all of this, security teams everywhere are on alert in terms of possible intrusions into their organizations. So I think SecOps is becoming more and more important compared to ever before because of the ever increasing complexity and the dynamic nature of security attacks. The second thing I think we wanted to talk about a little bit was also in this context, why are security teams struggling? One reason is, of course, the fact that there are limited resources. People who have security skills are difficult to find, who have an appreciation for what to look for, they're difficult to find. And as a result of that, what happens is that in case there is an incident that needs to be investigated, it typically takes up to 4 days to complete one investigation end to end. This is coupled with the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, there's a much broader attack surface. The threats themselves have increased exponentially. You have a lot of security systems to deal with that. And as a result of that, you get typically thousands of alerts, hundreds to thousands of alerts, depending on the size of the organization, the controls they have in place. All of this, again, helps in leads to overburdening of the security team, which is already challenging, which is already struggling. And again, the fact that you have so many point products to deal with, you'll have different firewalls, different vendors with different versions of firewalls. You'll have IDS, you'll have IPS, you'll have your EDR, you'll have extended detection. You might have routers and switches you want to monitor. There'll be custom application logs, and there'll be a whole bunch of products that you're working with in trying to deal with all of this. Uh, and one interesting fact that comes out again, if you look at a report from Cisco's 2019 Cisco benchmark, is in this context, if you look at a survey that they conducted, uh, a lot of 51% of respondents actually mentioned that for they did not even so the respondents mentioned that for 51% of the incidents they were not even able to respond to it. And out of the 51% that they responded to, they found out that only 24% were legitimate. The rest of it were false positives. I think the story that comes out from these two set of responses is that because you have such a vast area which you are not covering, there could be something hidden here where an incident could occur, or it has already occurred, but you're not aware of it. So that puts your organization at risk. The second thing that comes out is even within the area where you are responding and investigating, a lot of your time is going away in addressing non-value add alerts where they are false positives, but you're still having to go through the efforts to identify them anyway. So I think this is the current state of today's SOC, and as a result of that, there's been a push towards trying to find out how to automate, how to make things more efficient, and how to alleviate some of the problems that are being seen here. With that, I come to one question that we get asked a lot. So I think everyone understands automation. The question becomes, what is SOAR then? So of course, in SOAR, the S stands for security, because whatever we are talking about, it's predominantly from the perspective of security automation and orchestration. That's not to say that you cannot use the same tool for IT automation also, but that is not the core use case. You already have a lot of other automation and orchestration tools for cloud environments, for data centers, for networks, for servers, for infra. So that is a complete area in and of itself. The focus of SOAR is in terms of security integrations. So that's where the S in SOAR comes from. If you look at the automation part of it, automation by itself is a very narrow term. If you have a task that is being done repetitively, if you can streamline that and automate that, that is automation. So it's essentially one task that you are automating at a time. The orchestration that comes in is essentially that you are clubbing a bunch of complex tasks together, each of which can be automated, and then you are putting a logical layer on top of it, so that the different tasks that have been automated, they all work together synchronously. They are able to uh, give you the workflow that you determine. So the key word here, I would say, in the case of orchestration is that it talks about workflows. Your workflow can have elements of it can still have elements of manual work, and there's a lot of automation that you are going to bring in here to improve the overall efficiency. So I think that's where orchestration comes in, and we'll talk a little bit more about orchestration, because I think that is the heart of SOAR. And the third part that comes in the case of security is, again, it's not just being able to automate and orchestrate between all these different tools, all these different systems. End of the day, when there is a security incident, you need to maintain an audit trail. You have to follow a process in terms of how you respond, because it is quite possible that you will be subject to legal scrutiny. You might have law enforcement coming in at some point. You'll have to answer to people about the sequence of events. So again, the response part of it is also very important in terms of what tools a tools a responder has in terms of being able to work with any alerts. The automation will take some part of it. Orchestration will work between multiple systems, but then in terms of keeping notes, in terms of putting in your findings, in terms of being able to collaborate with other SOC team members, in terms of being able to collaborate with legal teams, with executive management, does your SOAR tool give you access to those kinds of features? So I think all of these together are important, and as a result, the term that, of course, that is becoming more and more common now is security orchestration, automation, and response, which is where we'll be spending the rest of our time today talking about it. I'll spend a little bit of time talking about workflows also. So what do I mean by workflow, and why is it different from automation? If you look at, for example, and SOAR tools, typically they implement workflows by means of something called playbooks. So if you look at playbook, essentially it will define at a high level what are the things you want to do. So you want to ingest the data from somewhere. It could be an alert. It could be some raw data from some device. It could be your email that has been reported as being malicious, whatever. You ingest things, then there's certain actions you'll take to investigate, then you'll take certain actions to contain. Based on that, you'll notify, and then of course it goes to response, which is the document part of it. So these are broadly the process steps that you need to follow within the security operation center environment. And if you look at how that moves into the next level of detail, if you look at phishing, for example, and Murugan will spend some more time explaining this in a lot more detail. But this attempts to throw some more light about it. So you're having some emails that are being reported. Then based on that, you are parsing it. You are looking at what kind of indicators of compromise are available. If there are URLs, you go down a separate path. If there are attachments, you go down a separate path, and then you take certain actions, and finally, of course, you decide that you notify the user, and with that you close the playbook. So all of this, as you can see, it's not just simple automation. There are a lot of decision blocks where certain decisions have to be made. Right now what you're seeing is actually just automated decision trees, but you can have a manual checkpoint here also, where you say that at some point before you notify the user, you want the SOC analyst to do a manual review of findings, and then you notify the user. So it's important that the workflow be defined. The workflow for any activity will not be the same across organizations. It might be similar, but each organization will do things differently. So it's not a one size fits all. It's important for orchestration to understand what is the current workflow. Then you try to understand what is the desired workflow. Once you automate it, how do you optimize it? And then you build out that workflow. So SOAR, again, it's not just a technology. I think that would be the key message here. The technology element is one part of it. There's an equally important process element. Unless there is clarity around the current process and then the desired future state, it's very unlikely that there'll be a lot of value that is derived from SOAR. With that, I'll just talk a little bit about what is seen within the SOC in particular, and then where does SOAR come into the picture. So in most cases, you'll hear people talking about something called OODA. So OODA is basically you observe, then you orient yourself based on the data that is being produced. You take decisions based on the data that has been produced, and then once the decision has been made, you do the final action. So the OODA loop is very prevalent in security analytics, in security operations. So if you look at how it would work in a typical SOC, you'll have, of course, like I said earlier, you'll have a whole bunch of point solutions. You'll have firewalls, endpoint monitoring systems. You'll have malware detection and sandboxes. So a whole bunch of systems which are aimed at sifting through the data and generating alerts or making sense of the data. uh, that gets passed on to your analytics platform, where there'll be elements of the SIM, which is doing correlation across your data sources. You'll have threat intel, which is again combing through your data to find matches to known indicators. You'll have some kind of institutional data warehouse, which is looking at matching the data you're getting here to maybe your internal repositories of organizational data, of customer data. You'll have risk and compliance systems, where again it'll look at the risk ratings of some of the assets that are under play, the users that are under play. Based on that, you might be looking to either raise the severity or lower the severity of different alerts that your point solutions are giving you. All of this essentially get consumed by the analysts, the L1, L2, L3, the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 SOC analysts, and they have a plethora of devices and data sources, as you can imagine, based on which they have to make certain decisions. Is there action needed? Is action not needed? Is it a high severity issue for which escalation is required? Is it medium severity? They have to make certain decisions, and then they have to prioritize. And based on that, again, they'll go back again to the end solutions, and they might make a firewall configuration change. They might go to a server, and they might ask for a patch to be updated. They might remage the system. They might update the WAF rule. So essentially, again, they'll go back to their point products, and they'll take a decision. So if you look at the first part of it, the observe and the orient part of it, to some extent, that has already been automated. The problem today lies that after it gets to the analyst, from that point, the process is still very much manual. The analyst has to validate all the information that is coming through. Then he has to write reports. They'll have certain templates. Typically, they'll have certain standard operating procedures they have to follow to respond to incidents. And then once the incident is closed, they'll again have to document it. So all of this is typically manual. It takes up a lot of time. And where SOAR comes into the picture is that it tries to bring in automation to the decision making and acting part of the OODA loop also. So instead of doing everything manually, we try to, like I said earlier, build out the workflows based on the existing procedures. And typically, one of the key success factors, what we have seen whenever you work with something like SOAR, is that you need to have existing defined SOPs, without which essentially you are starting at a very poor place. So you need to have certain standard operating procedures which already tell you, if you get a malware, what should the team be doing? If you get a phishing alert, then what should the team be doing? If someone reports that there's data exfiltration, what is the step of procedures to be followed? So it might not be very comprehensive, but there must be some process already existing, because you take that, you see how you can improve it, and then you deploy the automation. If you don't have any SOP to begin with, and it's very ad hoc, then I think the path to success becomes longer. It's not that it's not doable, it's longer, because then you will have to agree on the SOPs before you deploy the automation part of it. So I think that was a little bit of context setting about SOAR, why it's relevant, why it's useful, some of the key things to think through. And when you get to the technology elements of it, again, it's not just again the workflow also. It's also about the breadth of integrations. So you need to be able to integrate with a lot of different platforms and solutions if you are a SOAR platform. So you need to be able to integrate with any kind of authentication system, any kind of ticketing system, most endpoint monitoring systems. You should be able to integrate with threat intel. So I think there's a process element where again it's agnostic really to the actual SOAR you use. But if you want an effective SOAR platform, it should actually allow you to integrate easily with most of the leading vendors of all these different dimensions of security tools. And even if there's some tool here where there's no native integration, it should give you the capability of being able to integrate with that through some kind of custom code or through some means of being able to do that. So with that, I'll pause here for a moment before I hand off to my colleague Murugan to look at a use case in more detail and then the live demo. But I would like to ask at this point, in case I would like to pause at this point to ask if anyone might have any questions, anything that we can answer. If you have anything, please do feel free to ping it on the chat, and we'll be happy to answer. I'll pause for maybe 10-15 seconds just to see if there are any questions. If not, we can move on to the next section. Okay, I don't think we have anything coming through at the moment. So Murugan, maybe we should move on to the next section then, and then once you're done, maybe we can again check to see if there are any questions that anyone might have.
Sure, Sam. Thank you very much. So I'll share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Murugan.
Okay. So thank you everyone for joining us on a Friday. I will be walking you through a use case and then show how a SOAR platform automates an incident response in this use case. So let's take a look at a typical phishing response and see how SOAR can help speed up the process. Phishing is a very common type of social engineering attack used to steal user data, including login credentials, credit card numbers, other personal data. 1 second. We have. Yeah, so as I said, phishing is a very common type of attack. So an attacker typically disguises himself as a trusted entity and dupes the victim into opening an email or clicking a link in an email. So a very common type of attack that multiple users in an organization that we might be subjected to, as this acts as a entry vector for most security attacks. 95% of these attacks are targeted attacks. For example, it can be an email from an online store about a recent purchase. It might include a link to a login page where the scammers simply harvest your credentials. So security teams investigating these types of attacks must look at multiple email inboxes and make sure they get the phishing email with full header showing IP address, routing information, etc. They need to take a note of all this information about where the message came from and use that further to check it against threat intel and other logs to investigate it further. So now let's take a look at a general phishing response with and without SOAR and analyze it. So without SOAR, the entire investigation is going to be a manual process. The security analyst will have to collect the email from multiple email boxes and investigate and identify the type of attack, whether it is a business email compromise, spear phishing email, or clone phishing. Extract information from the email such as source, IP address, domain, attachments, and then check them against threat intel, logs, and then also do a malware analysis on the file name, file hash, domains, things like that, and also check for malware on the endpoints. Then they will go about identifying the users and the servers that are affected, and then his action would be to decide the severity of the incident and then create the incident itself. And his final decision could be to block the source of the email or and also alert other employees about this phishing attempt. So with the SOAR platform, all of this investigation can be automated, and this will save a lot of time. When a phishing email arrives at the platform, it can automatically do the investigation. Activities like checking threat intel, checking SIEM for logs, checking URL reputation, file reputation, can be quickly done, and the decision can be left to the analyst. So whether to create a ticket or inform other employees in the organization about the phishing attempt, and also respond to the incident at the end by deleting the email in the system, or moving it to a quarantine location. So this whole process, when manually done, activities like creating a ticket, checking URL reputations, scanning for malware, blocking and alerting, will typically take somewhere between 60 to 75 minutes. When all of this is automated with SOAR, with the SOAR platform, it can be completed within 2 minutes, ideally. So now let us take a look at how SOAR platform can automate a recurring investigation process and also see the speed at which it does it. Uh, Before we do the demo, I would like to highlight key features of a SOAR platform uh, that a SOAR platform should have. The first and the most important ability of the platform should, it should have the ability to do event management, case management, to rapidly triage, in an automated, semi-automated, or a manual fashion. It should also be capable of connecting to any SIEM or any other data tool to collect events. It should also have the ability to create a playbook with a visual editor that would minimize the need for coding. A playbook essentially is it represents the codification of repeatable process, allowing you to take time-consuming tasks and turn them into fully automated actions. And finally, it should also be able to integrate with different types of point solutions and have access to execute actions on them. Um, Let me show you the tool itself. So the platform, the SOAR platform that we will be using today for the demo is Splunk Phantom. So this is the main dashboard of the platform that gives us information about all the activity that is going on. This includes the different data sources, different sources of the data that is coming in, and the actions and the playbooks that are being executed. The ROI summary at the top, it helps us calculate the time and money saved based on how much work the platform is doing, considering the cost of the people's time used to perform these actions manually. The next key item that I want to show you all is the source of the data collected on this platform. But before I do that, let me quickly talk about how this platform brings the data in. Activity on a SOAR platform starts with the data sources. As SOAR platform should be capable of collecting both structured and unstructured data. An example for structured data would be events from an SIEM solution. Here we have Splunk events, and an example of unstructured data could be emails. So apps in Splunk Phantom give it ability to integrate and ingest data sources as artifacts. It also gives the platform the ability to take actions on these data sources. So let me show you some of the apps and briefly talk about them. So what you're seeing is a list of apps. So the first app is the Amazon Web Services app. So we can see that it has 20 supported actions. So these are actions that this platform can use either to investigate or to respond to that incident. So in this case, we are seeing some actions like start instance, stop instance, attach instance. So these could be actions that can be taken after the investigation based on what the result is in the investigation. So let me show you another app called Splunk. So this Splunk app is used to poll the Splunk SIEM solution and ingest data from it. Let me also show you another example. So VirusTotal is an app where it can check with the VirusTotal database to find out reputations about a URL or an IP or a domain. So it has actions to do them that we can use in a playbook. Apart from this app, the platform also supports API through which data can be ingested. So now we'll take a look at some data and see how this platform handles the case and event management. Mm, I will filter the view. I'll filter the view to email events as we are going to look at a phishing use case. So, so Phantom connects to Office 365 and investigates email from the centralized mailbox where users forward their messages that they think are suspicious. Triaging these emails to determine if they are phishing or not is a common task that SOC analysts have to perform manually. So let's see how this platform can orchestrate the various actions required and then automate the process. So, so So this is how the event looks like. It takes us to a hub for user collaboration, and is where an analyst performs all the event management, case management within the platform. Analysts can work together with the other analysts to review output of any automation actions here, look at ingested data, take notes, perform follow-up actions, and take real-time decisions based on the data. If we navigate to the artifacts tab, so we can see all the extracted artifacts from the email itself. I can click on the artifacts to zoom down further, and then we'll be able to see the key value pairs within the artifacts. Um, in, in this particular artifact, I have a request URL that has been extracted, and we can see the URL itself. So clicking on the URL, I'll be able to run actions. So there are many actions that we can run based on what apps has been configured in this platform. So let me look for an action. So maybe we can run URL reputation. So to see whether this is a malicious URL or not. So I can select VirusTotal as the preferred app to run the lookup, and then I'll click launch on the action. So once I click launch, I can see the results of this action on the left hand side. So we see that the virus scan has been done, and there are 3 positives out of this total 71 scans. If we take a look below the artifacts panel, there is a widget that gives a summary of the same information from where an analyst can take a note of things. So now we see that there are some positives. If I want to block this URL, I can again go to the URL and I can run an action to block the URL. So I can select block URL. So in this case, the only app configured to block the URL is the Zscaler. So this will be blocking the URL on the Zscaler proxy. So I just click launch, and we'll be able to see that the activity in the activity panel. So it says that this action has been executed successfully. So the URL is currently blocked. So what I want to show you next is how we can fully automate a response on the SOAR platform for these emails, so that actions will be executed automatically anytime a new email comes in. So in order to do that, I need to create something called a playbook. So as I spoke earlier, playbook is a representation of repeatable actions that can, be put together as a workflow. So I'll just create a sample playbook here. So when I create a playbook, there is a start and an end block created here automatically. So the first action that we made on the event is to do a reputation check. So all I need to do is just drag on this green blob and select the action block. Now I will find the VirusTotal app here, select the VirusTotal, and then I will select URL reputation. So in the parameters, what we want to do is select the request URL, because that is what we want to check. So after I've done this, I need to create a decision logic. So this decision logic is basically going to say that, if the summary of, if the results, if there are positive results, then another action needs to be taken. That is blocking the URL. So now I need to select the results of the previous action. And then I'll say, like, if the positive results is greater than 1, it can be any number. So I'm choosing 1 here. If it is greater than 1, then take the next action, which is to block the URL on the Zscaler proxy. So I'm going to select the block URL action. And for the URL, I will simply select the request URL. So once that is done, I can connect it to the end block. So now we have a very simple playbook that can automatically perform these tasks. So now in order to run this playbook, I need to save it first. So let me save it. So I'll save it as webinar demo 1. And there are a couple of playbook settings that I need to make before we try executing the playbook. So we need to select the data on which this playbook needs to operate. So we are going to select the email data. And if I set it to active, this playbook will start executing automatically on the data, on the email data as and when it comes in. So for testing purpose, we are not going to set it to active. We're just going to leave that in the disabled state and click save. So once this is saved, I can go back to the data sources. I'll open the email event again. Now I'll execute that playbook. So now this will initiate the action. So we already see the actions on the left. So the actions that are part of the playbook. So we can see 2 actions, URL reputation check and block URL in its results. So we are able to quickly and easily build out a simple playbook to accomplish our repetitive actions for the investigation and response. You can also have a much more sophisticated playbook, and I'd like to show you an example of one of that we can use to run on this event. So let me go back to the playbooks. So by the way, these are the list of playbooks that are already available in the repository. So we can take this and build on top of it if required, or we can create our own playbooks. So now for this demo, So this is more of a real world example of what we might want to do for a possible phishing email event. Let the playbook load. So in this playbook, we go ahead and run URL reputation, but we are also going to run domain reputation, and we're going to run file reputation in parallel. In each of these parts, we are using a decision block with the threshold set. If the thresholds for the file reputation or the URL reputation are not met, we will detonate those artifacts. We then look at the sandbox output and set another decision block where we will gather additional information from endpoints, get URL screenshots, and also a block URL action like we did before. At this point, we reach a circular block, which is a prompt block. This allows to prompt a user for action and pause the playbook execution and wait for a response from the user before continuing. Once the user responds to the prompt, we look at the response with another decision before calling another playbook. So this is a playbook that will run a query to delete the email itself. So now we'll go back to the event and run this playbook and see what happens and how quickly it happens. So I'm going to run the phishing investigation playbook. So we can see how quickly the SOAR platform is carrying out each step on the left. And there is a prompt for me here. I can click on this prompt. So it says that email is being marked as a phishing attempt. Please inspect so that Phantom can delete this instance from your email server. So unfortunately, it is not loading it properly. So let me close it and open up the prompt again. So I had to open the prompt in a different way. So yeah, so anyway, it's the same prompt. So I can click, I can respond to this as yes or no. So for this test case, I'm going to respond as yes, and I'm going to complete that. So once I've responded to it, we can see that another playbook is being executed. That is a delete phishing email playbook, where it runs a query, it identifies the email, and then it deletes the email. So what we have essentially done here is we've ingested an email from a suspected phishing mailbox into a SOAR platform. We quickly performed a few manual pivoting actions without leaving the UI, built a quick playbook to automate those actions, and ran the playbook in order to triage the event, and finally responded to a prompt and then performed some automated response to delete the email. In essence, automating and orchestrating the process to handle these suspected phishing emails over and over. So this is a key example of automating a repetitive process to save time and free up valuable time for other tasks. So with this, I conclude the demo and I open the forum for any questions that you might have. So there is already a question, does Phantom have HA and DR capabilities? So yes, Phantom does have HA and DR capabilities. Is there any other questions?
Hi, Morgan. Myself, Naresh. So basically, we are automating all these tasks, right? What about the false positives and all? Before automating the task, we need to look for the false positives. Then we have to build the playbooks, or how you guys are implementing that. So I know that in SAC, if we are implementing anything, there will be a number of false positives, right? How you guys are dealing that?
So see, for false positives, so how we will usually identify a false positive? So false positives could be like maybe an action that is being performed by a known user, maybe that is being captured as a security incident. So that is called a false positive, right? So we will have some kind of a lookup to exclude them from the list. So we can build that flow within the playbook. And Phantom also has something called custom lists. So that is similar to a lookup file. So we can have all that information populated there. So we can use that list to identify if that is if it is a real security incident or if it's a false positive. And we can build the flow in such a way that when it is a false positive, the playbook can end its execution and it can close that case, tagging it as a false positive.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
That's actually a very good question, Naresh. And I think just to make it more real right now, for example, suppose your standard SOP, suppose your process is that you're looking at login from unusual location, right? So
Yeah.
typically what your team will normally do is that they'll say, okay, logging in, who's the IP, then has the IP logged in before, then they'll find out who is the user, they'll reach out to the user, asking him, is it the correct location or not? If
Yeah.
the user responds is the correct location, then you'll say, okay, it's you can have a whitelist that says that this is okay, and then you'll close it. So that is the manual process. So like Murugan said, in the case of SOAR, what you'll do is the same process. You'll implement the process, but the thing is all of these things, right? So the moment the rule gets triggered, then you have to send an email to the user. So SOAR will send the email to the user. Then the user, you have to keep following up, right? Did he respond? Did he not respond? So you can keep checking if the user responded, not responded. You can send reminders that you can automate. Finally, the user responds saying that yes, it was me. So that again, you can pass the response and you can say that, okay, if the user says yes, then I'll have a whitelist and update the whitelist. Next time it won't get reported. If user does not respond, then escalate to the line manager. So again, that also you can automate. So your current process, you can replicate it. And then whatever process you have for dealing with false or true positive, you can again build it into SOAR.
Yeah, okay. Got it, Samuel. Basically, you are talking about geographically improbable locations, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, thank you, Naresh. So there is also another question: can actions be triggered both manually and automatically? Yes. So as a part of investigation, an analyst can come in, and as I demonstrated, he can go into the artifacts and run actions that are available within the platform. So the availability of the action depends upon the apps that you have configured. So if you have a VirusTotal subscription, you can configure that, so you will have all the actions that are available within the app. So yes, so those actions can be triggered manually, and automatically you can build small playbooks that can run on those events, and those playbooks can update the artifacts or update the ticket with some notes and things like that. So yes, actions can be triggered both manually and automatically. So I think we don't have any more questions. So let me quickly share my slides again. There's a few slides that we want to get through. Um, so what's next? So if you are interested in a POC, you can get in touch with us. So we will be able to identify things for you, and then bring into the POC scope depending upon your use cases, whatever data you have. So For POC, the step one would be we would do IOC enrichment, we'll do ticket assignment, we'll do escalation emails, automated approvals, etc. We can do, for security incidents, we can do phishing email investigation, malware containment, we can do DDoS, unusual geolocations. So all of this can be brought into the scope of POC, and we can do that for you.
Yeah, I think the key there, I guess for anyone who's listening in, possibly could be that I think whenever we do POCs, there's always a lack of clarity about what should be the success criteria, or what should be the reason to do a POC. So I think what we have found is that typically there are two areas that you would want to automate. One is that you might have, say, operational processes in case of the approval workflow, in case of the email management, in terms of the IOC extraction. These are more operational more than anything else. So again, the question becomes, for each organization, there are different things that are bigger overhead. So which are the processes that are creating the most overhead? We can help to identify that. There is a process that can be followed to figure it out. Similarly, when you look at the security incidents, each organization, depending on whether you are a bank, whether you are a online e-tailer, whether you are a retail player, you'll be subject to different kinds of incidents. Do you have a data center? Do you have a cloud presence? So the alerts that you are going to get are going to be different. So again, we can work with your organization to understand which are the ones that are number one causing the highest volume, and then the second dimension would be takes up a lot of time. So based on this, we can prioritize which are maybe the top 2, 3, 4 operational processes or security alerts that you would benefit by automating. And once we identify that, I think the second part, if you can go to the next slide, Murugan. Yeah, so I think the second slide becomes the second part then talks about, once you know what are the operational processes or the alerts that you want to go through as part of the proof of concept, then the question becomes, what are the underlying systems that need to be integrated? So do you want the POC to have an integration into your ticketing system? It could be Remedy or ServiceNow, Zoho Desk, Jira, whatever it is. So that could be one factor that as part of the use case that you're selecting. Maybe you're saying that it's something to do with endpoint. So maybe we have to look at integration with your endpoint detection and response, or antivirus systems, or with your servers. So depending on that, we can identify which are the tools that need to be integrated. So first step is identify the process. Second step is identify the technology integrations that are needed to support the processes that you have selected. And the third step, if you look at it, if you can go to the next slide, Murugan, if you don't mind. Yeah, I think the third slide again becomes, there are a lot of platforms, SOAR platforms in the market at the moment. If you go to the latest Gartner report, they'll list out some representative vendors. We actually work with 3 vendors primarily. You have Phantom from Splunk, you have Exor from Palo Alto, previously called Demisto, and you have D3SOAR. So each of them again has its own pros and cons. They have some of them have differences in features, some of them have difference in the licensing model, some of them have difference in pricing, some of them have difference in the volume of data you can work with. So depending on the organization requirements, we can work to figure out which is the platform that makes sense for you. And then I think that's the way to get the POC started, if that is of interest. So I think those would essentially be the next steps. In case anyone is interested, of course, feel free to reach out. And if you can go to the next slide, Murugan. Okay, I think the email is missing here, but you will receive a follow-up email after this also. There you go. So Susan@Positica.com. Please do feel free to reach out to us in case you have any questions about the use cases, the technology integrations, the D3, the SOAR platforms themselves. Feel free to drop us a line, and we'd be happy to reach out and work with you. With that, I think I would like to thank everyone. We still have a couple of minutes left. So if there are questions, we would be happy to answer that. But if there are none, I think thank you again for your time on a Friday. It was a pleasure doing this presentation. Hope it was useful. Look forward to seeing you on other webinars also that we host, and have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you, Sam. So everybody, just like Sam said, you will all receive an email from us. The email will have a link to the recording of this webinar, and it will also have links to other offerings and products of Positka. So you can always get on the links and check out our previous webinar recordings related to cloud security, related to our smart security monitoring product, and all of those. And you will all continue to receive emails regarding our webinars that will take place for the next 2-3 months. So yeah, thank you for all of it.